Actually found we found a kitten out in our yard. That's her bit.
Well, that would be yours. Yeah. We usually share. Yeah, yeah. Just what you don't have to do the most.
Thank you.
We need that.
Yeah, right. How you doing? Every time I'll. I just.
Yeah, having a talk about the college meeting in order. And for the pledge of allegiance. With liberty and justice for all.
Wendy Reed. Tom Graham.
Here.
Jamie Melky.
Here.
Kathy Macho.
Here.
Michael Behrman.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
I'd like to address the council. With something that's not on the agenda, to do so now. Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring the following to your attention. Oh, Mark Rundell, 181 Zoll Street. I'm resident, registered voter. When the United States was established in 1789, the individual states were permitted to set their own voting requirements. 8 of the 13 original states chose to include property ownership as a requirement for voting registration. Over the next 40 years, most of these states removed those property ownership requirements. North Carolina was the last state to remove those requirements in 1865. The reasons for these changes were that it became understood that these requirements enfranchised the wealthy while depriving millions of other citizens from fair and equitable representation. Women did not own property and so were not allowed to vote. Blacks did not own property and so were not allowed to vote. Native Americans did not own property and so were not allowed to vote. Today in Harbor Springs, we are being pressured to accord representation rights by property ownership. I understand that on the surface, there might be an appeal to fairness that property taxation justifies decision-making authority for these non-resident property owners. However, if one considers more deeply, it is realized that this reasoning does not justify abandoning the premises that representation should not be based solely on financial ability. Property ownership is based on financial ability. Governmental representation, as defined in our city charter, is based on residency and eligibility for voter registration. I call on you people as my elected representatives to uphold these guarantees. One last point. If representation comes to be defined by financial wherewithal, we start down, thank you, Victor, for the mention of steep and slippery slope. The very steep and slippery slope that more financial wherewithal represents more representation. I.e., the more properties you own, the more right you have to dictate to the city. Not a good scenario, thank you.
I don't think that's all true, but maybe it is. Anyone else like to speak?
I'm Miranda Miller, 651 Second Street. I'm just commenting, asked to get kind of a follow-up here from last week's city council meeting. I wanted to thank, pardon me, I wanted to thank city council and Ms. Machel for the motion that she made to stop moving forward with the RRC certification. And I'm a little bit confused where it passed unanimously, and actually the exact wording for the motion was for council to direct city manager to discontinue Harbor Springs pursuit in the RRC certification. I understand that as that we have stopped the certification process. My next confusion would be that, and Ms. Machel had actually added another comment regarding saying that staff adopted the best practices that are used nationwide. And I'm very grateful. Thank you for taking this positive action. And so I just made some notes here. Where the taxpayers and property owners are grateful for this agreement to stop certification process. The question remains, how do we live? How do we live moving forward in Harbor Springs? Because the last 5 years we have been whittled into an RRC best practices town. As Ms. Machel stated, the best practices have been adopted and that is being used nationwide. So for the last 5 years, we were kind of re-cement, our foundation was kind of re-bricked over with RRC and best practice bricks. And that includes our master plan was aligned by the best practices, planning, zoning, DDA, RRC, tree board, parks and recreation, basically everything was aligned to the best practices. And that reflects in the minutes in our boards and commissions that if anybody has a question, they will say, we need to refer to the best practices. So my question is are we 100% out of the RRC? I see we've been taken off the map and our sign is off of we're no longer an RRC community on our webpage. But if we're out of the RRC and I see here redevelopment ready community, but you also have the best practices, I don't see how you can have both. I'm wondering what council is doing moving forward to, if you're all RRC, I'm sorry, best practices. Like I said, we've heard repeatedly in the past 5 years, our master plan was aligned to, and I have a feeling we're due for a new master plan. So can our new master plan be done that is not aligned with the best practices? Because the best practices is the holy grail for the RRC and the DDA. As it states for the DDAs are the key stakeholders to engage when implementing the best practices. So, I'd like to ask, and I don't know, council ordinarily will not answer, but I'd like to maybe direct this to Councilman Reeves, asking, do we have a plan moving, are we 100% out of the RRC? Do we have a plan moving forward to operate not under the best practices for every board, committee, and everything? And if we have truly cut all the dog lines off 100%, can we eliminate the best practices once and for all in our I mean, what are the plans for that? Otherwise, we're basically an RRC without an RRC, because we are run by, we have built the last 5 years on the best practice. If that makes sense. Can you answer that, Wendy, or?
As I understand it, we pulled out of the RRC. So everything that's been done to align isn't necessarily a bad thing. But we would have to relook at it, and that is gonna be a big job, so it will take time. But as far as I'm concerned, the words RRC are struck from our vocabulary, and we never have to say them again.
Okay, but if you're still operating under the best practices, that is, it appears to me that we're an RRC without an RRC. But it just, I guess I'm wondering if we can eliminate the best practices once and for all and codify the changes moving down the road. The new master plan.
Ms. Miller, thank you, for your comments. I would ask that, maybe you give some concrete examples of the best practices that you would like to see eliminated. Because we could cut the Zoom right now. We could stop emailing agendas and packets out for every single meeting and board and commission. Not have any type of process for appointing boards and commission members. Are those the best practices that you would like to see eliminated, or are there others? I'm not quite sure I understand.
We need an
what you-
RRC.
I'm just, perhaps you can, email. Go ahead and, email the list of best practices. Feel free to send them to our city manager that you think should be eliminated. That would be helpful. Thank you.
That's right, but he doesn't really respond, so. I would like to add, Rachel Rune did respond very respectfully to me in the same type of request. And she even intimated she was not really sure how we were going to navigate going forward, so. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Yes.
Carol Winard, 141 Snyder Street, Carver Springs, full-time resident, registered voter. In response to her request and along Michael's line, I think that if we are going to get rid of the RRC, which the decision was made, then I think one of the things we should do is remove the Zoom capabilities, the newsletter, the text messages, and as Michael said, consider changing how we go about having appropriate people on different boards. But to pick and choose, first thing I would cut out is a Zoom, so that the people who are very interested and committed to this community and live here and spend their time here attend the meetings in person.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anybody have any comments on the minutes from the last 2 meetings?
Mr. Mayor, we need to go to section 2, approval of agenda.
I would ask to remove from the consent agenda, if we could remove item D. And replace it as a discussion item under 4, please. I'd like to remove that resolution and have further discussion on that separate under item 4, please. It can go at the end, become item F, 4F. But I'm asking to remove the resolution to excuse Mayor Graham's absence for the February 3rd meeting from the consent agenda to a discussion item.
Anybody else have a comment?
I can. Do we need a motion for that?
Yeah, make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we remove item D3D from the consent agenda and place it under discussion item, make it 4F, please.
I'll second.
Roll call, Kathy Mitchell,
Yes.
Jamie Melky,
Yes.
Michael Behrman,
Yes.
Wendy Reeve,
Yes.
Tom Graham.
Yes.
Motion carried to remove item D from the consent agenda and put it as item F. And further discussion.
Do we need a motion to approve the consent agenda then?
As amended.
As amended? I move that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Are all the bills approved? I mean, not quite.
Got a few more. We can pull them out and put them back on the next time or add them into discussion items. Let's just pull them out, and when we acknowledge item D on the consent agenda, we'll just approve the bills.
Okay.
So at this point, we'll approve on an amended consent agenda of minutes and the resolution to decertify a portion of Center Street. And I have a motion. by
So moved.
And do I have a second?
I will second.
Kathy Macho,
Yes.
Wendy Reeve,
Yes.
Michael Behrman,
Yes.
Tom Graham,
Yes.
Jamie Mulkey.
Yes.
Motion to approve, carried. I think we're on to item 4.
Yep, all right, we are on item 4A, which is a historical society update on the Shea locomotive. And then afterwards, we'll have a short discussion, brief discussion on the Shea Park plans that the Parks Department is working. So Kristen Bailout of the Historical Society, along with the other trustees and Tom Moran is here.
Hi there, good evening. I'm Kristen Bailow, the Executive Director at the Harbor Springs Area Historical Society. I'm joined here by Tom Moran, who is the founder of the Industrial Arts Institute, who we are partnering on this project with, and also Moran Ironworks. I'm joined by a few of my trustees here, Mark Prendeville, John Pinnell, if you can raise your hand, that'd be great, and Nate Graham to the back, so thank you for coming also. I was asked to attend this evening to give you a bit of an update. And I took the opportunity to also include some history about the Shea locomotive because we always have new viewers and new council members. So I hope you enjoyed your walkthrough time. And for lack of a place to start in this, because I was requested to come here, I'll give you a quick summary and then I'll give you an opportunity to ask questions that you might have. And Tom's here to help assist with some of those questions, so don't be shy. Okay, so if you turn to actually the 30th slide, so 3 from the last one, Victor, we're going to talk about the restoration plan. Right, go back a couple more. Right there. So that was where we were at the last time that we presented, and we presented to City Council. We've been to the Parks and Rec Committee, both of whom approved our plan to display the locomotive in Shea Park, and we're still moving along. There's been a lot of discussion about the pavilion, and we haven't made a lot of progress to report with you here tonight about the pavilion. However, we are full steam ahead and there will be a choo-choo chugging into town
mid-May. So thus far, since we reported last time, we have the metal sandblasted and painted. The wood decking has been replaced. A new steel cab has been constructed and is in process of assembly, and Tom can talk a little bit about that. The engine has been completely cleaned, put back together, and is actually in working condition. And we have been had the pleasure of actually hearing the engine run by use of compressed air. So we're very fortunate to have received a locomotive that you could even potentially conceive of doing that with, and with Tom's expertise, we were able to do that. We will not be driving it into town, however, there is still a large tag attached to the transportation of getting it from the Industrial Arts Institute to Shea Park and reassembling it once it gets here. The site itself, next slide, was presented in the original. So you can see there was some discussion about how much space the locomotive would take in Shea Park. And so the drawing that you see here is representative of that. And it is less than 4% of the square footage of the green space. Next slide. And this fall, we were able, these slides you see here are representation. And however, this fall, we were able to get the site prepared, and the aggregate is in place. And as it says there, excavate the foundation area down and then add 12 inches. That has been accomplished as well. So the location and the site is ready for the tracks to be set and the locomotive to come in. And next slide. Yeah, next slide. Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, that is, okay. And so, yeah, the pavilion one. Great. So what we've shown you here is just a representation of what we hope for, and is still a goal for the Historical Society. And the dimensions of the pavilion that we are raising funds for has not changed at all. We're still committed to the same footprint and utilizing the same ballast that's been currently placed that would encompass the space that you see there. And just to give a little bit of context to the project itself, we set out for this to be about a $350,000 to a $400,000 project. We're looking at about $390,000 now. We're short about 100,000 of our projected costs in order to include a pavilion. That also includes our interpretive panels, for which we currently have a grant out for a request to assist with funding on the panels, similar to what you see in front of the AHA. Those panels were also created by the students at the Industrial Arts Institute. The site is ready, and we're aiming for the week of May 12th or the 19th for the locomotive to arrive and to also have a community dedication. Our grand opening that would involve a greater community would be during Shea Days, which is the third weekend in July. That's what I have to present. You can challenge me or Tom with questions. And yeah, so I just open the floor to any questions that you all have.
Thank you, Kristen.
And I don't know if I'll take questions from the audience or Jamie.
Yeah. When we talked about it last time, we talked about the cement around the train. Is that something that the Historical Society is taking care of?
Because we're not prepared to move forward with the actual pouring foundations and footings, that is something that we have to revisit with the excavating company and figure out a nice way to finish that. And I worked with Lucas a lot on that with the AHA, and I'd like to revisit that with him, how to make it maintenance friendly, if you will, so you don't have rocks and gravel spilling over into the lawn. And the AHA is on a concrete pad. So I have a vision of kind of encasing it in pavers, if not a poured a poured curb, if you will. So it does still need to be developed, and I would lean toward the preferences of the DPW who will be mowing the lawn in that area.
Are you anticipating, is that something that you'll be redoing before the May?
Yes, we would want to do that, yes.
And are you pretty confident that those May dates are good?
We could have,
Yes,
we
we were
could
kind of
have here
disappointed.
sooner if the snow would melt, so.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, I know we were all hoping last year to see it then, and so.
Right, the, putting off a little more research on the pavilion was kind of the holdoff because there is a benefit if we had the funding for the pavilion to be doing that now before the locomotive comes in, but that ship sailed and that's okay, and we do want to enjoy it. And Tom had some other things on his schedule that this project bumped up against, so we just took the winter to do some more fundraising and some more R&D on the project.
I guess I would like to see this come back with the actual plan that shows what's going on underneath and around the train, because I was under the assumption when you came to the Parks Board that there was a 5-foot path or cement slab around the train. Because that was part of our plan and we cut it out because you said that it was already there. And so if that's not part of it, then I think that all of this needs to come back to council before we can approve of the install.
Sure. John, do you have something to add to that? I'm gonna ask John's the committee chair.
Sorry, I just don't want to jump up right now. The plan is to put a barrier around the whole thing, whether it's 6 feet or it's 8 feet. We'll work that out with Lucas and with Victor. But I think, and Tom can speak to this because he's going to be in charge of actually bringing the locomotive over. And what we may want to do is actually put the track section in, put the locomotive on, and then pour the walk around at that point, rather than doing it ahead of time and then possibly breaking it by taking this, it's 36 tons, so I think that's kind of the plan.
Yeah.
Is that a fair statement, Tom?
Well, I think we have several different options. First of all, the locomotive itself will sit on a modular steel rail system that was built that way for a reason. Put in one piece and it will spread the footprint evenly over that piece of ground. We could easily make another one and either roll it under its own power or with as little as it's functional. It is a functional, besides the steam part of it, it is a functional locomotive. Could be under compressed air, or you could move it off of that, 50 feet away, do any groundwork and move it back. It really is so close to complete that once it is complete, it needs a home. That's where we're at now. I think that's. As far as the cement work and the site work, that's between the Historical Society and the city. So it's.
I mean, but
No.
I think council needs to be aware of what the plan is. I don't think that this is just a DPW or Parks Director conversation. I think that council needs to see what you want to do before we can even approve of the shape art design from the Parks Department, because that could change a lot of the design that we've worked on.
Well,
I have a design here that maybe might help. Nick, if you could show it to Jamie. It shows the.
So Jamie, I do think that if that can be accomplished before the locomotive arrives, there's no opposition to that and there's funding for it. Yeah, I honestly hadn't thought about it because the pavilion wasn't being put in, but there's no reason that can't be a part of this first phase. To establish that walkway with the locomotive prior to the pavilion. Right.
That's right.
Right, So, I understand what you're asking for, and, I think that we can set that as a goal to have that.
And not piece by piece, because that really sets the city back as far as our plans going forward.
Right. Well, the pavilion would be the separate piece, but the finished work of that site, the groundwork or the site prep would definitely be a more finished piece with that walkway around it.
But there's a certain amount of it that has to be done piece by piece. We're just talking about, a 60-ton locomotive and a 150-ton crane and point loading, hundreds of tons. So personally, to do the install and do a decent job of it, I'd rather not see that those site improvements until after that equipment is set and gone. The other option is run quite a bit bigger crane and reach out even further to set the heavy components. So I'm not, I have nothing to do with the site plan itself, but as far as the succession of items, it would be better, as far as I'm concerned, to set the locomotive before that site work is done, even a pavilion.
I'm not asking that it be done in the other order. I just ask that once you put the locomotive, that concrete pad is done within a significant, like a good time frame, because we can't move forward on the rest of the Shea Park plan until that is done.
So we have funding, we do have funding to do that part of it, and we can absolutely make it part of our timeline. That's not a problem at all.
So within a reasonably short period of when the locomotive would be. I mean,
Yes.
I guess this is my concern is simply because we did, hurry up because we were hoping to have it before, and now it's like, okay. So I'm kind of excited about how close we are on these dates, and
I'm more excited than you are. We all are. So, and, I'm very motivated to have it done right in line with the installation, like the week after, 2 days later, however. So, we'll get started on it immediately. It's a high priority for us as well. We understand.
I would think it's taking up a good portion of Tom's shop right now.
It is.
I thought you were gonna say my time, but okay, on shop too. Yes, we're excited to get it here, and we're excited to get it here before the height of summer. And, there's no secret that we have a Shea House and a Blackbird Museum and a roof going on right now as well. So all of our projects are moving forward at a pretty good pace, and we will definitely respect your request in keeping that pace with this project as well.
Hybrid, yeah. It's on the street and shared with parts, but the landscape architect, so this is where this comes in. I would just like to make sure that we take great attention to detail. That pad, as it was put in right now, is not Square to Bay Street at all. So that's gonna take some jiggering to get that straightened out, otherwise we're gonna go to, why is that like that? So, just, we could have your commitment that that'll be taken.
Bring in all my OCD.
Good.
And you.
Okay, yeah,
Okay. You're hired.
I can join you.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. We will. Thank you.
Anybody else got a comment?
I would like to thank the Historical Commission and Mr. Moran. Thank you very much for the work that you and your students, your company have done on this. I have no doubt it will be a jewel for our city.
So, thank you all. If anybody has questions, I'm at the Historical Society, Kristen, and I'd be happy to show you more photos and share more about the history with you. And if you go to our YouTube page, there is a full video presentation on the history of a locomotive of a history talk we gave at the museum. So I encourage you all to watch that and get excited, and you'll be invited to a dedication very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just so the next portion of this really quick is an update that the Parks Department is working on finalizing the engineered plans and a bid schedule for the Shea Park Master Plan, which was included in the packet. The draft site plan was, and the plans are being prepared.
Thank you, Nick.
One thing is that the parks neighbors who were originally interested in potentially doing some landscaping on the park and some staircases that would both benefit the park themselves are no longer interested in the project. So that's a potential donation that's, would not be there to cover the cost. So what we budgeted in the general fund was $30,000. We hope to get some donations, but with that, we're dropping out. We don't have any at the moment. So I want council to be aware of that, that if you're still comfortable with spending $30,000 for the project, then we can expect to see a bid at a future council meeting. We would have to select one. So what we're doing is we're bidding out the project probably with the stairs as an alternate, just to see if it would, how much that would cost. And the bid, the engineering plans are include a pathway, landscaping, there, tables and signage as well, shaped by sign. So that's what's being engineered out. And you saw that draft plans like that in the packet from fall, and back in later engineers are working on that. So,
Keep going forward.
I personally think that we need to see the engineered plans before we put it out to bid.
yeah, we could do that. There's no rush, especially if it's not coming until mid-May.
Well, and it's hard to pick a time frame for us to complete the project if we don't actually know and have a guarantee that they're gonna have their portion done.
So I'm just getting this site plan here really quick. Yeah, so this is the sort of draft site plan that we're working on. Yeah, you see staircase, pathway there, so. Yeah, we can definitely bring the engineer's plans to you, and probably need to go to planning commission anyway.
If the stairs are bid as an alternate, I'm assuming the length of pathway from the AHA to the stairways is also part of that alternate. Because you wouldn't need a path extending up. Towards this. Okay,
Yeah,
I
see that,
yeah,
you can
I
hear
got
us.
it. Okay. Would there be maybe some type of circle there or pad so that someone?
Yeah, it's a little awkward, like nobody's gonna sit in a bench like 10 feet away and stare at this boat, I don't think so, but yeah, we find some way to end it.
Okay.
I mean,
Little cul-de-sac or something.
we just feel the stairs were important, now it's a way to connect, people coming down White, coming from the east, to get into the park rather than walking all the way down the hill and then. And I don't know, we used to use the Denver stairs all the time when we lived on Main Street. I think it's a great way to connect through from Main Street, down to Ford Park.
As far as the $30,000, I know that it includes the path and landscaping, and I know at one point the Historical Society had said that they could potentially help us with landscaping or signage or benches, and I would just like to make sure that we're continuing to pursue either working with them or working with other organizations to try to see if we can get some of those benches or landscaping or signage donated versus paying for all of it out of the general fund. I think the path out of the general fund is fine. I don't know that I'm in favor of the stairs or any extras.
You look into putting like a sidewalk going down an angle instead of the stairs, or do you not have handicap problem?
I think it's too steep, Tom, like in order to make it an ADA pitch, you'd be going from one corner all the way to the other.
Okay.
Good question.
Any other comments?
Yeah, it looks like we do have on Zoom. Oh, no, we don't. So no comments. So if there's no comment, then move on to the next agenda item.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, with the slides in here, the pages get. The next agenda item is a tree advisory board report. Tree board chair, Carol Leonard, and vice chair Dan Mulder are going to do the report, and then I will put the slides on.
Thank you for having us back. We're delighted to be here again, and we're well represented tonight. We've got the mayor, of course, we've got Carol Leonard, Kathy Leo, and our high school representative, Henry Krusel, who's been a big help this year. He's written an article for the tree canopy column in the paper, and he's gotten us the stage for a movie at the Lyric coming up this month. So he's been wonderful this year.
That boy, Henry.
Yeah.
Good.
Good, okay. So a reason to be here tonight then is to give you our update, our annual update on what we've done and what we've got coming up. And then we have some super exciting new projects that we want to talk about. And I don't know if you want to do feedback tonight, but maybe just to kind of put it in the back of your head that these are things we'd like to talk about later in the year. Okay. And every year we have an inspirational quote for you. This year, the true meaning of life is to plant trees under which whose shade you do not expect to sit. So that's us planting trees for the future. And for our newer council members, just a quick recap of the tree board goals. I think we all agree that trees are an important part of the city, or the character of the city, our economy, our sense of well-being. So the first one is to build and maintain a diverse, healthy, safe, and attractive tree population. And then second, to create a sense of stewardship of the city's trees among residents through opportunities for education and involvement. So what did we get done in 2024? Lots of good stuff. We got the Harvest Spring Street Tree Plan finished, and we got funding from council for our first 10 trees. As I recall, they will be going in on Lake Street, Ann Street, Spring Street, and Traverse Street. So that'll be happening in spring. You may remember from last year, we came in made a presentation to council that we would like to take vegetation management in-house for the city rather than having it done on a case-by-case basis with residents making requests. So this will bring management of the trees fully under the city and the city's responsibility, and it's a much more proactive way to handle things rather than reacting. We had a great Arbor Day Fest at Harborview Park. That's at Hoyt and 19. For bingo, free saplings, for theater craft, taught by Eric Hemingway, hot dogs, and we planted 4 new trees. And we continue to write and publish our every other month tree canopy column in the Harbor Light, of which Henry wrote one. And information about our projects, about trees, and about how people can get involved. Okay. So what do we have coming up for this year? This year is going to be a lot about finishing up things that we have underway. In fact, we just finished a community input survey so that we can understand better what's important to our residents. Victor, is that still up online? Yeah, it is. So if anybody has.
No, the survey is closed. The results are up.
Okay, yep. So we'll get into the results in a minute, but it's very interesting and helpful for us in deciding, you know, where we want to focus our efforts. As I said, the first 10 trees will go in. And we'll finish the vegetation management plan. And the goal of that is to have guidelines for regularly evaluating our trees and then pruning, taking out dead ones, that type of thing. And that applies at our parks, the bluff, which has always been a little more difficult area to deal with, in city buildings. This year, Arbor Day Fest is going to be May 24th at Upper Zorn Park. Ben Bealing's gonna be there. If you didn't get a chance to climb a tree last time, he'll strap you in that harness and help you go. We're gonna do seedlings again, games, and information about trees suited to Harbor Springs. And hopefully Mary Graham will be grilling hot dogs for us this year. Okay, the tree survey. So we had 142 people take it, which is really pretty good for a little more obscure topic like trees. We were after finding out what the public was aware of, and for the most part, they were aware of the tree board and our Arbor Day Fest, that it gave us some ideas on other things that we need to publicize better. We went through reasons for planting trees, and part of it was to reinforce those with the public, but also to get their ideas. What was of most interest to people that took this study? Identifying disease, selecting trees, and trimming practices. So we're going to be addressing a couple of those at Arbor Day and have a couple of tree canopy articles planned. And then where should the city focus its efforts? So it's mostly on maintaining the tree canopy we have, adding trees, and educating residents. Less so about policy. So hard to know if that was just interest or if people really don't want to be told what to do with trees. So, oh, and then a bonus, 15 people said they'd like to get involved and or donate. So that was great. Okay, here's the exciting stuff. First idea, we talked about possibly expanding the role of tree board to include other conservation, environmental type issues. Some of those could include water quality, recycling, dark sky initiative, stormwater management, shoreline management. I think we've got the time to do it. We're going to work ourselves out of a job pretty soon. We're getting all the systems in place for trees. So I think it's something that residents are very much interested in, and we may do a survey at some point on that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether that's something you think is worth pursuing. We're going to delve more into reforestation and rain gardens. People in Harbor Springs love to go to lectures, so we thought maybe we could develop a series of lectures about the environment. And then we'd like to start working on an arboretum. We had talked about doing it kind of back behind the police station here. We planted, I think it was 21 trees 3 or 4 years ago as part of Arbor Day Fest, all different trees. So you kind of got us started it going, but it'd be a great way to educate the community about trees. All right, and we always wrap up with why trees are important. You can read the reasons. And that's it. Any questions, thoughts?
I'd like to thank you for not only the work the tree board does, but for presenting at the event that's coming up at the Lorax at the Lyric. I mean, it's called Lorax at the Lyric, and it's Dr. Seuss's the 2012 version of the Lorax, and it's brought to you by Key Club of Harbor Springs High School in Kiwanis. But thank you, Tree Board, for being there to present. We appreciate that. Our Kiwanis and Key Club appreciate that.
Good.
It's free next the 13th of
yeah.
March. So
Thank you, Henry. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Mayor, moving on to the eastern section of the boardwalk. As requested by council, we did two things to gather more information about the community's aptitude to donate for the boardwalk and or to do the project. One was we issued a survey, an online survey, asking just 4 questions, 3 or 4 questions about Eastern Boardwalk reconstruction project, as well as we mailed out to previous donors of the Western Boardwalk, those donors that donated $1,000 or more, to see where their interest lied in potentially donating to the Eastern section. We didn't ask for a direct donation, we just wanted to get their feedback on what they thought. So if we can take the survey results, I'm not gonna go through them in super detail because it was in the packet, but the survey results overall, 222 respondents and about 136 of those were city residents. There were some duplicates on both sides of the boardwalk is not important versus very important, kind of canceled each other out. So I'm not too worried about the results being skewed because of that. And that's based on my IP address. So I don't think there's really a worry there. When it comes to how important reconstruction of the eastern section of the boardwalk is, when you look at city residents only, 57% said it's slightly important or not important, 43% said it's important or very important.
That's not, check backwards.
57% said slightly important or not important, that's the blue. And the green is very important or important.
Oh, I'm hard to distinguish.
I know the way that
Blue and
the
green.
marrying is.
Alright.
When you look at non-city residents, it was flipped. You've had more non-city residents saying that it's important and very important versus not important. So if you break those down in a little bit more detail, you'll find that sorry, when we go down to how the boardwalk should be funded, if it should, 38% said no funds should be spent on it. So if city residents, 38% said no city funds should be spent on it, and that kind of aligns with 39% of city residents who said it's not important at all. So, but 25% suggested using donations, while 35% said it should be a mix of tax dollars and donations. What this tells me is only about 1/3 of city respondents who took this survey said that tax dollars should be used on the project. So you have 2/3 that said no tax dollars and 1/3 that said yes to tax dollars being spent to some extent. When you consider non-residents, of course, those kind of flip those numbers as well. There's again greater aptitude for non-residents to want to do the project. So then we asked a question to see if it kind of changed things about what they thought about the boardwalk project if we were to lose the easement. And city residents still were okay with not doing the project and losing the easement. Pretty much similar to important versus not important breakdown. And when you look at the non-residents, 72% were not okay with the city losing its easement. And I think the reason why I kind of broke it down with non-residents and residents is because, of course, you know, when we seek donations, we look beyond just the city limits. So it's kind of important to know what potential donors think about the project. And it's clear that more people based on the survey outside the city want to see this. And I think that this is just an assumption. I think some of that has to do with the schools. The kids use the boardwalk. And I think a lot of people are, especially a lot of locals who've been here a long time for generations, like the boardwalk has been kind of integral to school. So I think I'm saying that's an assumption. I don't know for sure, but based on some things I've heard, that's could be a good reason for why a lot of people outside the city limits wanted that. So that's the survey results. I guess it's simple 4 questions, not a lot, but it is pretty telling. Some mixed results. So when it comes to the responses from the letters, I just heard back from a handful. I think with all the responses we've heard right now, if we would accept donations, we would probably stand around $75,000, potentially more. There are some, for example, bigger donors that didn't commit to an amount. So we don't know if their number would be 10,000 or 25,000 or more. So an estimate right now, though, is we'd be at 75,000 what we have without doing a push for donations beyond what we've done so far. So conclusion is just to wrap up, there is support to reconstruct the eastern section, but a majority do not consider it an important project. There is no strong support to use tax dollars. And fundraising for the entire project within a couple of years would be difficult without securing several large donations, and by large, I'd probably need $50,000 or more. And I suspect the city will need to tap into street or general fund tax dollars if we want to do it in the next couple of years. The reason I say that is if we extend this donation to 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you never know what costs are going to go with doing the project itself. So it would probably, at some point in the future, it could be smarter to just say we're going to use some donation money some city money instead of letting the costs get higher. And needing to solicit more donations if council wants to continue going on there. So that's what I have. I don't, much of it's pretty self-explanatory when it comes to survey results, but I think it's up to council to decide how to proceed.
Would it be worth looking into opening a fund with the Petoskey Harbor Springs Community Foundation like we did for the skate park to bring in additional funds that way?
We can look into it.
So is it a realistic possibility to look for funds from the street fund?
It's realistic from, I think, a legal perspective, because but from how much money we have in it, that's different. We have to look at our CIP projects to see what kind of street projects we have going forward.
The street funds, our millage generates about $300,000 a year for street repairs, maintenance, resurfacing. And we try to spend at least 10% of that on foot traffic.
Right.
So yes, I could make a very valid argument that that's connecting Bluff sidewalk to, Third Street sidewalks. 30, 40 grand a year is pushing you out quite a while, but it's absolutely something that could be thought of going forward.
To piggyback off that, doesn't mean that we only can spend 10%.
Correct.
We could spend more if we wanted to, but then we have less money for the actual street
priorities between streets and boardwalks.
And there are other sidewalks in the city that need repair, that are in disrepair.
I think even though this survey may have shown that maybe this isn't the most important project, I don't think that it really gives the perspective of, are there any projects in parks that people really do support over this one? I get the sense that they want us to maintain and keep all of our parks the best that they can be. And so I'm really in favor of pursuing this versus continuing to add more infrastructure to parks when we have things that really need to be taken care of before we add new.
I'm in favor of somehow getting the job done. I've used that boardwalk all my life. If we took out the best part coming from the school, that Oak Trail.
I guess my concern is basically the timing and how do we go from here? It's like some people want it, the Eastern Boardwalk, some don't really care. Some say no, so I don't know, it seems like there's quite a split, and I'm not sure I'm just trying to figure out what the best way is to go forward for all of us.
I think going from 5,000 to 75,000 potentially in the matter of the 2 weeks or whatever it's been since we sent out the letter shows that there is some support for it. And I think with a little bit of push, I think that there could be more.
Is it worthwhile to set a timeline and a dollar amount for donations that, you know, we need to hit a certain amount by a certain amount of time, because, yeah, this could go on. But, you know, we're really serious about, you know, let's get it, if we're gonna get it done, let's get it done. You know, maybe we need to set some tangible timelines and fundraising expectation.
I think for me, I would like to see the fund with the Caskey Harbor Springs Community Foundation explored as a start, and then I don't think that we can really do much until we get to at least 250 to 300,000 donations.
Does anybody remember how much we were quoted to remove it, and was it 60,000?
It was 60.
Between 60 and 70. I think.
Yeah, it was somewhere in the 60s.
I kind of hate to waste the money taking something out that we get nothing for.
What were we talking a total budget of about what, between $500,000 and $600,000?
Yeah, roughly, yeah,
Okay,
between 500 and 600 would be the.
I mean, I feel like we really need to have, I'd like to see that we have at least $300,000 in donations or in, you know, serious pledges
You know,
before we commit to it.
Can I speak, Victor? Sorry, it's Rachel. Sorry, it won't let me raise my hand. I apologize. This is Rachel, the Parks Director for the City of Harbor Springs. Just to clarify, with the Community Foundation, great avenues, they do great work. They don't necessarily do the fundraising for you. So just to clarify, you have a fund with them. It does allow for different avenues of donating, which is nice. You can donate via stock, online. So it does open up other avenues rather than just coming to the city with the check. The other piece to the Community Foundation is their fee is 3%. So just know that if council does decide to go that route, they do take 3% of the donations. That's all.
I think the added value of being able to contribute from a different avenue. Also, I think that sometimes people are more comfortable donating to a 501c3 instead of writing a check directly to the city.
I agree with that.
I agree with that too. I just want to make sure that council has all the information available to them.
I'm hearing the figure of 300,000, which is approximately at least 300,000, which is approximately half the cost of the anticipated cost. Is there some type of time frame that we would like to see? I mean, I think it's valuable to have time limited goals.
I feel like we should check back maybe in 6 months, or if we get to 300 before the 6 months, then they bring it back to us, but check back in 6 months and see where we're at.
So that would be September 1st.
I mean, if nothing happens between now and then that's another sign that maybe we don't do the project.
I would say we come back in the first October meeting after this summer.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karen.
Mark Wandell, I've heard a lot this, Mark,
I'm waving at the blonde behind you there, Mark.
Pretty well. Karen Carol Donnelly, 644 Ann Street. So I hear these numbers being tossed around, but do we really know what the plan is going to be? I mean, we talked about maybe making it a trail. Is it gonna replicate what we already have on the western side? That would be, that would be more expensive. So it's just something in between. It's kind of hard to really be specific about how much money you need until you really know what you're gonna be trying to build. So that's one comment I have. The other question I have is on the foundation. Is it interest bearing? I know another foundation I work with, another group I'm involved in, we earn interest on the money that's sitting in the fund. So I don't know how the Petoskey Harbor Springs Foundation works, but I know the other one I'm involved in does pay for the investment. And then the cost of investing, we end up on the positive side because the cost is less than what we get in return. So those are my two questions. But the biggest one is, what do we want it to be? And I know we did talk about maybe making it a walking trail, which I think would be an awesome idea, which could call in some collaboration with the schools, perhaps the Little Traverse Conservancy. I talked to Molly Baker about some ideas, so I want to throw that out there as well. So that's my question. What do we want it to be? How much is it going to cost? And the question about the foundation, which I think putting in a foundation definitely makes a lot of sense because those who want to donate out of retirement funds can do it that way, whereas they can't with the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. This is, actually, to answer your question, it would be a rep, like the Western Boardwalk. This is what the price we had. We got an estimate based on that, yeah. And we did talk at a previous meeting about the difficulties with doing a pathway from access issues as opposed to doing wood and the easements that we need, et cetera.
I think that just,
Yeah.
I think that the pathway though that we've talked about was not like a dirt nature trail. It was putting in cement path. And I don't know if it would be possible to just leave it as dirt and not make it cement. And if that would fall in our easement, and if people would be opposed to that, but I think that if we could leave it as a dirt path, like Karen said, more of a nature trail, that could really lower the cost if that falls within our easement.
Guess as we get closer and know how much money you got and what everything costs at that time, it's a good time to make that decision.
And I'm older with my parks. Now, I'd like to echo what Rachel said, that just opening up an account at the foundation is not gonna bring money in, like. They don't shake the bushes or rattle the bushes or whatever it takes to get the money out. There's still gonna have to be some type of effort. So I don't know if anything's going forward with this fundraising committee or.
We're waiting for applicants.
I think there's just some really great ideas on, where we can try and find money from. Go out in the community and speak to groups like Weekly or Birchwood or The Point and see if they want to sponsor it or look for foundations with local ties. But it's going to take somebody to make that effort. So either we're going to have this found. Do we have applicants?
No, not yet.
Okay. Or we could, back to what I was talking about earlier, is there's this firm, two women that own it, out of Traverse City, and that is solely what they do is fundraising and grant writing. So, I think it was gonna be maybe $1,500 to help us out with, was it the boardwalk we were talking about even back then?
Among other things, but yeah, they do grant writing.
But I mean, if we do end up having trouble trying to find local talent, I think this would be a really good one to give it a try on, and then we'd learn some techniques and learn some procedures and things that we could use on future projects. But just to sit here and say, okay, now we've got this account, but nothing's gonna happen unless there's enough to put forth.
Thank you, Dana.
Hi, it's Karen, I'm Richmond. It's a little bit out of my lane, but I'm wondering if the easement is nimble enough that it could be changed so the exit from the path could be in a different place. So it doesn't come down between two homes. There's been, some discussion in the past about parking visitors up in the schools. And I love the Third Street residential area and having people come into someone's backyard and through their bedroom windows and up the path. Maybe there's a new route. It wouldn't, it would take the historical thing that you've worked on for so many years a little different. Maybe that would be an idea. Thank you.
Work it there. Thank you. You ready? Keep it under an hour.
Mark Mondell, just real quickly, thinking of the time frame. I've heard an awful lot in this chamber about how everything happens in the summer around here. Maybe it makes sense to put off decision on this until after the fall if we're trying to raise funds. Summertime is a good time to do it.
Thank you.
I also think that the benefit to the community foundation is that you can make donations online, so it can be shared on social media, and social media is a powerful resource, and people sharing the post gets it out to a lot of people. So there could, even if people want to donate $20 to the effort, every $20 really adds up.
Anybody else got a comment on the boardwalk or future boardwalk? Pat?
All right, we'll march forward with that.
Director clear enough for you?
Yes, try to get money back. $300,000 back. Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is 4D, Public Act 95, Low Income Energy Assistance Fund. So this is something that I told council would be coming. The state has a low income energy assistance fund that provides energy assistance and self-sufficiency services to households that meet certain income level qualifications. Under the previous version of the law, electric utilities that didn't participate were not allowed to shut off service to any residential customer in the winter months, November through April. At that time, it was a choice whether or not to participate. So if you did participate, you had to create a fund via some sort of surcharge to customers, $1 per month or whatever on their bill. And that would go to the state, and then the state law would require that funds be returned to the regions for low-income households in those regions to the greatest extent possible. The state is now requiring us either to opt in the state's fund or to create our own program. And which means either way we do it, we have to allocate a certain amount of our own electric fund dollars for low-income energy assistance. So council has to choose between opting into the state's program or opting out and creating our own program. This decision must be made by March 31st. Actually, MMEA, our Michigan Municipal Association or Energy Association we're part of, they want us to get to them by March 26th, so we can report to the state. I don't think it's that complicated. At first, it was kind of like, oh, this is kind of serious as far as what it would take from the city's perspective, but actually, it's not that bad. So I'll just explain to you what opt-in is versus opt-out. I did provide some flow charts that MMEA provided for us to kind of guide you through the process, but I'll summarize it here is the state would set us, if you opt into the state's program, the state sets a surcharge, and we got notification that it's likely going to be $1.25 per customer, so per meter per month. The city would collect the money and remit a monthly check to the state. In this case, there's no guarantee that the state will use that money to assist low-income households in our region. which means we could be subsidizing other regions in the state. But the city could shut off customers for non-payment in winter. The issues where we would want to do that potentially are those people that, we know can afford it, but are just chronically late on their payments or aren't paying. And, it gives us advantage to shut them off as incentive for them or punishment to pay. So we can't do that right now because we don't opt in. Now, if we opt in or opt out, we'll be allowed to shut off. So that's one benefit. For opting out, we create our own program rules. The good thing is there's a lot of templates out there. Other municipalities have templates that they use, so we could easily create our own program. And what we're talking about is who qualifies and how, basically setting the threshold. We decide how to collect the money. That's also another thing. What the state recommends is the total amount for the first year comes to $1.25 per customer per month. And that is the simplest way to charge it. Really is the simplest way, just everyone a flat fee per month. However, we do have different classes of customers here. So you could also wanted to is charge one class of customers a different amount versus another class. But that would take some analysis to figure out, a good justification why we would be charging some customers more or less based on class. And by class, I mean we have, in town versus out of town residents, et cetera. There's different types of customers we have. Or we could just take money out of our revenue and not charge an extra surcharge per month and just take out of our current electric fund revenue. However, the problem with that is then you're chipping away into our revenue to do projects and electric system improvements. So we think this would amount to approximately about $60,000 a year. We have close to 4,000 meters. So if you charge $125 per month per customer, it'd be about $60,000. A good thing though, why I think opting out makes sense is because any unused money for the year would roll over into our fund. So we'd have our own local LEAF fund. And let's say we only spent $15,000 on low income energy assistance in 2026. That brings us down to $45,000 that we have for next year for 2027. And then we can reduce the amount we're charging customers to replenish our fund back up to that $60,000, which could be like 20 cents a month as opposed to 25. If we went with the state, we're opting in, we're going with their rate every year. So, and that could be a problem. Lucas did some research and found that in Emmett County, there's a state program for this. The entire county, $55,000 was remitted to lower income households. So we'd be collecting more money in just from our 125 per meter per customer than has been divvied out to the entire county for this. So it's clear that we probably only need to spend anywhere between $5,000 to $10,000 at most in a given year, unless there's a substantial dramatic change in the economy. That seems like where the trend is. So opting out would definitely save us some more money, and it let us keeps the dollars locally, but also saves us money in the long run. What the state says is you just have to have enough money in your fund to cover your expected low income household needs. So if we're using $10,000 a year, then definitely would have enough money in our fund as it rolls over to cover that. And then again, we'd also be able to shut off customers for non-payment. So as a summary here, the advantages of opting out include local control of the funds. We determine how to collect the surcharge. It costs us less than opting in over the long run. The disadvantage is that there'd be some additional work by staff to set up and administer the program. However, I think aside from the initial setup, it's not going to be a lot of extra work. The initial setup is really just creating a program and getting that program notice to the customers. The work that's going to be happening on a monthly basis going forward after that would just be sending a report, collecting that data and sending that report to the state. And I don't think that would be hard to collect that data from our side.
No, not at all. I'd much rather spend an extra couple hours a month on this than have $60,000 of our people paying and disappearing somewhere else every year, where at least 60 grand might last us 5 years. We're gonna pay 60 grand to go downstate every single year, never get it back. Which I'm not opposed to helping people anywhere in the state, but these people that are on our system pay here then it should stay here, but that's an opinion.
It's also worth noting that even though we're just an electric utility, the state's law requires us to even cover the cost for heating. So low income households that can't afford heat for their homes, this fund would cover heat as well as electricity, even though we only provide electricity. So
Gas heat as
yeah,
opposed
yeah,
to electric heat.
Yep. So the other part of this is, once we notify the state, our decision opt out, opt in, we have until, it was October to create our program and notice it to the customers, and then the program goes in effect in 2026. So my recommendation is that we opt out for the reasons that I said here and what Cliff Whitaker said. I think it makes sense. So it's really not that complicated. We would create a program, which is really creating the threshold for who qualifies and how, and then come to council with our proposal for a program that council will approve.
I guess I tend to agree, I like the opt-out. Do we have to, I mean, is starting at the $1.25 recommended, required? Do we need to start at that amount? I mean, I don't know, since we are talking about low income potentially with issues.
Yeah, and
Could we start at 50 cents and
for the-
maybe just do that for 2 or 3 years?
For the first year, when we talked about this with the MMEA and MPPA, they said they highly recommended that we go with the states. For the first year, we go with the state's number, and then we adjust for the next year based on our usage. Because the reasoning for that is the state is the one who already currently collects the money from participating utilities, and they've determined this rate is a reasonable rate to cover your community. And even though we know that's not the case, and ours is, we could always then keep that money in the funds, in that fund, and don't have to charge anything following years. So I think it makes potentially, I know it'll be a hit on the customer's bill, but I mean, I think it makes more sense to set up the fund with that charge, and then in the following years, if we don't have to charge anything, we don't have to charge anything. Or we only charge 10 cents.
I'm all for control our own money. Guess it.
Do we have any data of how many customers per month we average who don't pay their bills or that we have cut off?
We've not cut off, because we haven't been
Okay.
able to shut off in the winter time. But Nick, you might have some sense, because you get payments.
We don't have a lot, and we try very hard as staff with our utility folks, myself, even though we can't shut off. We try very hard, even if we could, that's an absolute last resort, and I'd rather have some money here to say, okay, here's a situation. We have something to help you.
So it's
So, and we-
very minimal. Then.
Yes, I could envision it being under $5,000 a year. The gas thing is where we're still gonna have to weave our way through this, because that'll be something that's an unknown. Because I'm assuming, and what we've read is, okay, our utility, the electric goes as far as the brewery, for instance, Birchwood, and sprawls a little bit north. So those people that are on that grid also have DTE Energy or whatever it is for propane or natural gas.
Exactly.
So that's kind of an unknown. That's why I would strictly recommend the $1.25 and try to front load this bluntly to keep the state out of our business and go from there and see how it plays out, but very minimal, yes.
Thank you.
We don't have to decide a dollar amount or anything like that today. I mean, we can talk about that later, but right now it's just really about getting council's okay to either opt in or opt out.
So you just need a decision on whether we want to opt in or opt out, and then staff will determine the.
Yeah, we'll come back with a proposed program, costs, et cetera.
Okay.
Do I have a motion for anybody?
There's public comment.
That's a quick question. Victor, when the money goes into this fund, can it only be used for low-income assistance at that point? Or if we were to get say a substantial balance in that fund, could it be transferred to the general fund or any other?
No,
Electric
it'd have to
fund
be,
or-
it'd have to stay for only.
Would
for
have
low
to stay
income.
as low-income assistance. Yeah. Thanks.
I'll make a motion to opt out.
I'll second it.
Wendy Reeve,
I,
Jamie Melky.
Yes.
Tom Graham,
Yes.
Kathy Macho,
Yes,
Michael Behrman,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 4E, Councilmember Reed requested the mayor to add this to the agenda as a formal acknowledgement of the council's receipt of the Harbor Commission special meeting minutes. Councilmember Reed, I'll let you explain your reasoning.
I was just looking to spackle over a little crack I felt like we had. But then when I read Victor's recap for this, he perfectly summarizes in one line that we have no official procedure for receiving communications from boards and commissions. I think we should fix that. Otherwise, in this instance, the Harbor Commission met. They took the time to come here and talk for 26 minutes. And they did issue a decision, but we only got the decision conveyed through Jamie, who attended the meeting, and Victor, who was at the meeting. And we kind of floundered a little bit when Zach was here, because we didn't have the benefit of having seen or read what they had talked about. So we, in effect, became rubber stamps. And I think we can do better than that. I don't want to be a rubber stamp. But on the other hand, I also should, in my learning curve, start at least YouTubing meetings before our minutes, before we meet.
I think that you just summed it up perfectly as far as it is our responsibility to do our research, and if we have questions about the recommendation, we have to go back and we have to watch those meetings online, or we have to reach out to the city manager and we have to ask him to clarify things or to provide more information. And I think that our job is to show up at these meetings and be prepared to have discussion and make decisions. I don't think that we need a formal procedure. I think that that's our responsibility. That's what we signed up for.
I agree with both to some extent. I feel like typically when we've got something that's been, at least in my 1 year experience, it's not a whole lot.
It's your mic. It's bad.
Oh.
Yeah, use just use Michael's.
Don't break it.
I feel as though sometimes a little more formality might not be a bad idea, only because, yeah, and maybe I just have not always been clear. If it's something that's coming from the Harbor Commission and it is, in this case, something that was a legal requirement by the state, I believe, that having somebody from the Harbor Commission actually come and say, this is what we decided and this is what we need. I don't think that's a big, and I mean, and we've done that
Sometimes, I mean, I'll clarify though that I do, technically for the bylaws, I am the secretary for the Harbor Commission. So, I mean, I'm there, I convey the decision. In my memo, I included the reasons that the Harbor Commission had for making their decision. Of course, the draft minutes can be asked for, and sometimes they've been included in packets if they're complex topics. And this one, I didn't think was a complex topic at all. It was pretty simple, but anyone can ask, anyone can ask for that information. Draft minutes are draft minutes. Sometimes it can just be scribbles on a piece of paper. So they're not approved by Harbor Commission. So I'm also sometimes hesitant to present minutes that haven't been formally approved yet to the board as what it is. That's why I just convey my memo. So
I didn't realize that you were I didn't realize you were the secretary official
officially, yeah, that's what
For
the
the-
bylaws, yeah.
for the bylaws, so that's different. I didn't realize that.
I also think that that's why we have council representatives on each board, because we can also back up what happened at those meetings, and we are doing that in reporting the boards and commissions, which we just started last time, so.
Additionally, I think if we were to use draft minutes are just what I think Victor suggested, they're draft minutes. In this case, the Harbor Commission didn't or doesn't have their next meeting until June or something, correct? So, and the conveyance needed to be approved before then by council. So I understand all sides of it, but I think also that we operate on somewhat, we have to operate on practicality, common sense, and it's a recorded meeting. It's history that's been recorded. We could all watch it. And yes, there was a motion taken. So I agree with the YouTubing thing. That's a good point. But you know, I don't think anybody's on either the Harbor Commissioner here or the people requesting the conveyance. No one, you know, I think it was all kosher. No one was trying to pull something, so.
I also think that if we only accept approved minutes, it's just going to hold up everything. It could require that all of a sudden, all the boards and committees are having to call special meetings just to approve the minutes. And I think that that's unrealistic for our volunteers.
If I may interject, after writing 10,000 sets of minutes for everything in the world. The Harbor Commission is a strange one, as is the fire department, fire authority, just because they don't have frequent meetings. A lot of this, like Wendy says, which spackle on a crack, I get that because, okay, if there's a formal action made at one of these meetings that then has to come to you guys, I would think, yes, let's look at what this action was and what are they bringing to the table. 90% of the time, at least, I think that these meetings coincide on a more frequent basis, that those minutes then may be approved already at that point, with the exception of obviously the Harbor Commission, who goes 3 and 4 months. So I guess I didn't realize that you were the actual secretary for the Harbor Commission either, but
I do the minutes.
you do the minute. And with the meetings and YouTube, and then I think that's at least with this Harbor Commission deal, I think that makes much sense. Because there is a gap there of unapproved minutes that could change once they're approved. So, but that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Nick.
I don't need anything, but I don't know if it's council requests.
I think we discussed it. That's what I was looking to have. So, I would like to point out to everybody, it is a dock, it is in the water, it's on the shores of one of our wealthier communities, and it's gonna be there for decades. So I've been trying to spackle over that tiny little crack that probably nothing will ever come of. I still, our first job is to safeguard the city. And it's a nothing to do. It doesn't cost us anything to do it. And then when they do approve of the minutes, we can always formally receive those minutes and say that they uphold the actions that we took. But I can also say, okay.
Mayor, any other comments? Are you ready to move on?
Ready to move on.
So, council had added on 4F discussion item, I'll get back up to it, is for the excusing mayor's absence from the February 3rd council. And this is one, again, that Councilmember Reed had requested to excuse Mayor Graham's absence from the February 3rd council meeting, for resolution. Can we create that resolution? Discuss.
Is that big of a deal to accept for a miss a meeting?
So section 6.0 of the charter's provision is that if you miss, potentially if you miss 3 consecutive council meetings, you could be removed from city council. In this case, you know, you missed 1 in a row and there's no worry that you gonna be removed from council for missing 3 consecutive reasons. So what historically has happened, and not while I was here, but historically, people who knew that they were gonna be gone for a while for a valid reason, or, you know, people who did become sick for extended amount of time, they got those absences excused, or tried to get those absences excused, so they, you know, didn't run into a foul with that provision in the charter. So, but for missing 1 in a row, we've never done it. Sorry, 1 in a row, for missing 1. we haven't done it, but.
Well, I requested something like that, Mr. Mayor, and again, with all the respect in the world, that's, I certainly totally understand if anybody has to miss a meeting, you know, for whatever reason things happen, and we all get sick or whatever. I missed a special meeting last year to approve something. I forgot even what the meeting was for. I was out of town and going to a medical appointment actually. That was prearranged. So I just feel that this resolution process in the charter is for really extenuating circumstances, and heaven forbid that any of us are really sick or have an emergency, or it could be for a life event that we need to go away for. I certainly would hope that we could use that resolution if necessary, pull it out of the charter and use it. That's why I wanted to separate it, because I missed you very much at that meeting. I
think you were charter.
Yeah. And I'm like, darn times, don't pull that again, but I was very understanding.
Down for 10 days and I was pretty sick like that.
No, and we all totally understand that, and, you know, appreciate you and want you here as we would anybody, even though we might have our differences here at the table. We all need each other and want each other here. And I think we're understanding if somebody has to miss a meeting or 2 because of life. I don't think we need to pull the resolution out, but for something more serious where, oh my gosh, you know, this person's gonna have to miss a couple meetings, or, you know, 3 meetings or whatever, I think it's something that we would want to pull out and use. Um. Hope we don't have to, but. That's why I thought it just needed a little bit more discussion.
Any other comments, from anybody?
The city charter isn't specific that this can be retroactive, that you can apply it to those dates at any time.
It doesn't state whether it's retroactive. You can do it before or after.
I mean, you don't know what the future is, so, and they're very firm on that. You miss you miss 4 meetings, you're done.
It's 3 consecutive meetings.
Well, it's also, if you miss 4,
in that
you're,
section.
yeah, you're done. So you don't know what the future holds.
I don't recall seeing 4. in there. If you, yeah, I just didn't recall. I just know the 3 consecutive.
Well, 3 consecutive isn't a problem, but if you miss 4, you've missed 25% of our meetings. So.
No.
I think that might be for some of the board's bylaws. I think that's for some of the boards.
Yeah, I thought that's not.
Yeah, no, the bylaws for some of our boards and commissions say that if you miss a third of our meetings, which is 4, then you can, then that board or commission can recommend to council removal of that individual from that board or commission. So I think most of our boards and commissions have that 1/3 rule, but the council, that doesn't apply to council.
If it's retroactive and you can apply it at any time, then we won't have to do it. But I hate to waste it and then come down to the wire and he's had a death in the family and he's, I don't know, come down with tuberculosis and now we have to excuse him because we didn't take care of this one.
So no, so I think what I'm trying to say is that 1/3 doesn't apply to us. So this charter provision only means 3 consecutive meetings. So since Tom only missed 1, that restarts. So that 3 restarts at a, you know, let's say he misses May, June meetings, that's, 3 meetings, then that's when that would take place, 3 in a row. The 1/3 for the boards and commissions, that is for throughout the entire year. So if you miss 1/3 of, let's say you're on the tree board and you miss 1/3 of the meetings, whether you miss January, March, August, September, then that board can recommend removal to the council. And there's a process for that. But yeah, the charter is 3 consecutive. Yeah, so I'm not personally worried from that perspective of needing to excuse someone.
You're right. It says absence from 3 consecutive regular meetings shall operate to vacate the seat.
And it's also regular meetings, so then if you're out for 2 weeks, council's not calling special meetings just to get you kicked off.
The other is for boards.
Yes, yeah, that's what about in the bylaws and boards. So I think that's where the confusion went.
Yes.
But, and that's brings up another point is, as council members who serve on boards and commissions, it's tricky even if that applies to you because you're appointed by council to serve on those boards. So let's say, Michael misses, 4 of the planning commission meetings in a year. I mean, it's required that the council has someone on the planning commission. So then council has to decide, do we want to remove Michael from missing meetings or do we put someone else on? So it's even a little more complex for those that are council members serving on boards and commissions. So, yeah, just throw that out there.
Do we need to have a vote on this or a motion?
That's up to council. So there, you don't have to.
I don't think it's necessary. When I'm absent for illness, I think. I don't see an issue.
As it was followed up by multiple meetings after sickness, it's a moot point. It's as if it never happened at this point as far as removal from council.
For some reason, our city clerk also pays council members for missing meetings.
Oh my goodness, you are?
Yeah.
You guys get $5 a meeting for me to go back and count which one you were not at. Yeah. City more money. So you'll likely get paid for being sick.
And do we wanna make a motion to approve the bills that we
Oh, yeah.
waited on? I would make a motion to approve the bills.
Money looking good.
I-
Bills,
Yes.
motion by Jamie. Motion to pay the bills. I get a first and a second. Kathy Macho,
Yes.
Tom Graham,
Yes.
Jamie Melky,
Yes.
Wendy Reeve,
Yes.
Michael Behrman.
Yes.
Motion carried, bills are paid. Thank you.
Okay, I can move on to the city manager's report. Something that's not in here because we just did this on Friday was we did receive 5 bids for the harbor master building. 2 of them did come in under $1 million, which we were hoping for to clear aiming for $1 million. So that's a whole $1 million less than our low bid from last time. So, so I really appreciate Mark Bidet and doing a lot of work there to dwindle this down to a more tangible project. So we'll come back to the next council meeting to select a bidder, contractor, sorry, and make, and then also go over payment options, you know, using the waterfront fund or general fund, so we can get more into detail about that, but this is a much more doable project now with the basic. All right, in your city manager report, you'll see just a bunch of updates. It looks like it's still gonna be snowing a little bit here and there, and obviously we get snow in April too, is northern Michigan, but crews are gonna continue to clear the drains and still be some moving of some snow, but with the rain coming this week, we're probably eventually gonna start moving to spring operations as it warms up. So just keep an eye on that. We did receive site plan approval from the Little Traverse Township for the substation off of White Road. So now we're gonna be going through the, getting the documents ready for bidding that project, and we're gonna talk about bonding. And so we're at a meeting with city staff about that tomorrow and our engineer to get more details to you. So we'll probably come up for an update in the spring. I'm sorry, excuse me, to council. Taxes are no longer be collected at City Hall. Go to Emmett County Treasurer if you need to pay your taxes at this point. Yeah, so basically, those are just some small things. You see, there's a lot of events going on with the Parks and Rec. And you saw those in your report. Also, I may or may not, I think I sent an email to council, I may or may not be here at the next council meeting. My wife is due with our child in mid-March, so I'll try to be here, but if the baby comes around then I'll just pass the buck to somebody else. As one excuse my absence.
I'll call it 3 times in a row.
No, that's her. But yeah, and then we don't meet in the first Monday in March, in April, so we'll have a few things on the March 17th agenda, and then we'll have a nice break and then come back on April 21st. That's all I have, unless there's any questions about anything else going on in the city.
We need to deal with any boards or commissions tonight.
Were there any meetings in the past?
Planning Commission met for a regular meeting on February 20th. We approved a site plan for 800 Penn Avenue, Pennsylvania Avenue, for the demolition and reconstruction of some garages. John Arcangelo presented an educational segment on by right versus special land use. We reviewed the red line versions of Articles 1, 11, and 12 that had previously been reviewed. We reviewed and gave input for Articles 13, which is amendments and severability of the proposed code, and Article 8, which is site plan review. And then we have a special meeting on March sixth, that's this Thursday, to review the red lines from Articles 13 and 8, and also to review Article 6, which is site development standards.
Said February 20th,
Pardon me?
February 20th meeting, so you were reporting on?
Yes.
Any other comments? Okay, any new or old business we need to deal with?